We're back on the Marching to Madness College Basketball Podcast with the North Florida Ospreys head coach Matt Driscoll. He has a 58% winning percentage in the Atlantic Sun play at UNF. Plus, check out the rosters, check out the points totals of his players. 13 of the program's 18 1,000-point scorers belong to Coach Driscoll. Coach, welcome.
Thank you. It's great. And you start throwing those numbers out. You know, we've had an incredible run the last 9 years, 8 years. And we finished tied for fourth or higher. And we've won 3 championships. Us and only one other school in the last 8 years have won 3 regular season championships. So it's been really, really good, really, really special for us. And we've got a chance again. I think you know Ken a lot, because you've been around a lot, and that's not a negative. It just means you've been around a lot. But you know, when you get older at this level, it really, really helps in a lot of different ways. And then with the transfer portal, teams can get older, but also too, other things kind of come into play. But we've gotten older because of guys' experience. Last year when we played, we were the 5th most inexperienced team in college basketball.
Wow.
And now, you know, we have all those guys back, 2 guys that are preseason all league. And I would say this to you, Ken. We had one of the most incredible we always played incredibly tough non-conference. Last year was probably in the books on paper the hardest ever. This year, though, we have number 1 Gonzaga, number 3 Houston, number 4 Kentucky. So, you know, we've never had that many top 5 before. So you could argue, you know, we have 6 of them this year. However, we started crazily. We started A-Sun play with 7 guys because of COVID. And we never thought COVID was going to be an issue.
Sure.
And, so we had to play our first game at Florida Gulf Coast, and a heck of a game. We missed a 3 with like a minute and a half to go to tie it. And so that first half of the league, we go 1-7. And 5 games are decided on the last possession of the game. And during that time, not only did we only have that COVID situation, then we had our 2 leading scorers, the 2 guys that made the preseason all league this year. Both of those guys got concussions. So we're kind of scattered and whatever. And then we finally get whole. And we really thought we had a chance as it went on. And then we finally get whole. And we go to Jacksonville State, who at the time had just stopped Liberty's longest in the country home winning streak. And they were undefeated. They were playing at home. But we got whole, and we really felt when we got whole that we're going to be able to elevate ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we win at Jacksonville State. However, right toward the end of the game, it's the beginning of our final 10 games of the A-Sun, and we end up going 7-3. But right at the end, Carter had 27, but he tore his Tommy John. And so we lose him. So we were only whole for, 1 game. And then we got Bellarmine at home. And Jose, our other preseason all-league player this year, along with Carter, he gets a air ball, and he breaks his finger. So the last 6 games of the A-Sun regular season, we don't have the 2 preseason all-league players this year, and we go 5-1. So we end up 6-2 in the second half, 5-1 down the stretch, probably the hottest team going into the tournament. And so with all that, and knowing that the guys that were injured have the respect from our colleagues in the league to have them as 2 of the top 10 players in the league of a 14-team league, it's pretty exciting for us to know where we are, who we have, the experience we've garnished. We brought in, a couple transfers and a couple new guys. The one kid Oscar Berry, you'll really like. He was all freshman at Fairleigh Dickinson in the NEC, and a Florida kid. He's Australian, but he's from IMG. And so we've got a really, really nice mixture. And the one thing, Ken, we did last year is we really elevated ourselves defensively. Now, unfortunately, in my 14-year history, it was the worst offensive team we've ever had from a statistic standpoint. But there were some games that you were like, whoa. Now, we still average, 9 threes a game and all that stuff. There were some games you were like, whoa. But could it have been with the influx of guys and who was on the floor and who wasn't, and guys playing different positions, and guys who weren't playing are playing, and then guys who were playing aren't playing, and then all of a sudden those two guys get the same two guys that got concussions. They both got season-ending injuries, and so whatever, it is what it is. But we tell our guys this all the time, Ken. Number one, nobody cares. Number two, they ain't rescheduling the games. Like, they ain't gonna say, "Oh, we'll give you a week," whatever. And then number three, like, everybody's got issues. So like, everybody's got a guy maybe dinged or this or that. And during our championship runs, we were really, really we were really graced, and we were blessed that those guys, some of our greatest players, Ken, never missed a practice or a game in their career. How about that one?
How about that?
I mean, a practice or a game.
Sure.
Like, it's almost unheard of. And so we feel with that kind of esprit de corps, with that kind of connectivity, with that ability to defend, we were tied for field goal defense and second in DER. And we still, our Achilles heel that we still got to improve on, and we've really, really shown them, is what we call, Ken, in basketball, is the equivalent to football, is the red zone.
Yeah.
Now, it's not the paint. It's actually closer than that. It's what we call the red zone. So technically, it's right there between the first and second hash down, and as wide as the women's hash marks.
Sure.
And we really look, and the game is really won and lost when talent is equal, and who can control that area, specifically in eliminating second shots, or conversely, getting second shots. That's where we failed ourselves. We were actually last in the league at 65% defensive rebounding. And just to give you a correlation what that looks like, the team that finished first was also one of the best teams in the league, and they got it at 80%.
Oh,
so teams were only getting 2 out of 10 misses.
Sure.
So we really harped on not necessarily blocking out, but more importantly, what you used to say when you were coaching, and what we were kind of brought up on in coaching, because we're similar age, is whoever can win the real estate has the greatest opportunity to win the game. And in life, as we all found out quickly after COVID, real estate is definitely your number one commodity. It's real estate. If you can own so owning that red zone and securing that miss, that's where we found that we have to really, really, really we have to exceed where we were last year, or like everything else in life, if you always do what you always did, you're always going to get what you always got.
Yeah. Hey, you got 3 leading scorers. We talked about them: Jose Placer, Carter Hendrickson, and Jarius Hicklin. Back, talk about them being, a source of like rebuilding the team for this year, I guess.
And Carter and Jose, like many guys like them, were, poached and talked to and communicated with and contacted as far as transferring and
Mhm.
going to a higher level, and all those kind of things that go along with it. And as soon as the season ended, I brought them both in right here together
Mhm.
and said, listen, we want what's best for you. And if there's a greater opportunity for you, man, let's go do it. Because you guys have worked your tail off and you've done so much for us. And golly, we want to, if you think and your family thinks, let's do it.
Mhm.
However, respectfully, let's look at it in a time manner that makes sense, because it's going to be very difficult to replace you two.
Sure.
So at least give us a chance. And so they both, Carter a little bit less than Jose, but they both went and, seeked wise counsel and looked through different scenarios, and they both came back.
Sure.
And Carter being the only senior this year because of COVID, it gives us, again, we've kind of built this thing the way we did it in 1920, then the way we did it in 14, 15, 15, 16. So when you have a guy like Carter that can 6'8", that can stretch it, handle it, facilitate it, but he can really, really defend.
Yeah.
He can lead, and he can help guys know. When he was on the 1920 team, he had 4,000 point plus scores around him.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's that guy, and he's got, one or two guys around him besides Jose and Jarius that are, raising their level sort of like he did. So he's really got a great feel for that part of it, which is a cool thing from a leadership standpoint.
Right.
And then conversely, Jose and Jarius, and I'll say this because I believe it, are as good as any backcourt guard combination in America.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go mid-major, you can go mid-major. I know there's a lot of people in our league, 14 teams. It used to be 8, then it became 9, then it was 10, then 12, then 14.
Sure.
And I know there's a lot of other guys that have transferred and moved and whatever. But I'm telling you, those two guys are as good as any combination that you're going to find. And when you have guards like that, now the Jonathan Abars, the Jaden Parkers, the Dorian James, those guys get so much more because of their ability to stretch it, deck it, find it. And then you got Carter as a fourth guard at 6'8", who can do those things. And then you put guys around them like Chaz Lanier that can stretch it and athletically play, or Oscar Berry, the kid that transferred in that was one of the most efficient players in college basketball last year as a freshman.
Sure.
Got 43% from behind the arc. And so when you have those various pieces, you say to yourself, wow. And then there's a couple other ones, there's a kid, he's a little dinged up. He's not like badly hurt, just a little bit dinged up.
Yeah.
He's a typical kind of a freshman that's trying to figure it out. But if you score 2,667 points at the largest classification in the state of Florida, like, you can score.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
He's one of those guys, Ken, back when we were recruiting and we had those guys on your team, those, Will Solomons and Lacedarius Dunns and Dallas Moores and all, like this Joker is one of those guys that he's never met one he doesn't like.
Sure.
Like they all look open and they all look good to him.
Yeah.
And, so we've got some really, really nice pieces and some opportunity for some guys to grow. through that non-conference. And
Mm-hmm.
it's got some balance. You're
Mm-hmm.
at Gonzaga and you're at Washington
Mm-hmm.
in the first week, and then you got South Carolina State at home. We have a whole new facility, about $3 million they
Mm-hmm.
put into the facility. And then we got to go to High Point and play at High Point. And then we got Bethune-Cookman in a home and home. So we've got more mid-major games than we've had. Last year we had to play 8 guarantee games. But we still got, like I said, we got Gonzaga, then we got Washington,
Yeah.
and we got Duquesne,
Mm-hmm.
and then we got Kentucky, and then we got Houston.
Wow.
And then we end up with Pitt. So, it is what it is. But I feel really good that we have that balance. And then the league because of what happened last year, the coaches didn't think divisions was the right way to go.
Mm-hmm.
So we've put everybody together. And what they did is they did a 7-week, basically a round robin where you play everybody in the league once,
Mm-hmm.
but you play your travel partner twice. So that's 14 games.
Sure.
So you got 13, you play everybody once, and then you play your travel partner an extra game. So that's 14 games. So that's the last 7 weeks of the league.
Okay.
The first 2 weeks, you'll play 4 teams, 2 home, 2 away, which gives you 18 total league games, and then 5 teams that you'll play twice, but not necessarily, 5 that are regionally close or whatever. It's just the way they had to put it together.
Wow.
So we were fortunate though. We've got Austin P coming here. We go to Stetson. We got Kennesaw State coming here, and we go to Florida Gulf Coast.
I got
So
you.
our 2 road games are both in the state. So that's kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of how the 9 weeks will shape up to get us to 18. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing we did for the first time in a normal year, I guess to say it. So during COVID, I think everybody felt bad for everybody. So they let everybody come to the tournament. That's the first time. We had 10 teams, and we usually only let 8. So that's the first time they've ever done that.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, when we had 12, last year when we had 12, they let everybody in the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year, now we have 14, and we always do home sites. What we've decided, and I think you'll like that. I mean, at the end of the day, Ken, at our level, when you're talking about one bid, the home court being the number 1 seed, what you do during those 18 games has an enormous impact on what March will look like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it was maybe 7 years ago, I think, we came up with all the games at the home seed. And of course, when we won our championship here, 6,155 people. So what we're doing is we're always trying to protect the number 1 seed. So technically, once you bracket it, you would have 7 play 10 and 8 play 9. That would be a normal bracket. But if 8 beats 7, or let's say 7 beats 8, but let's say 8 beats 9, but 10 beats 7. Mm-hmm. Well, now, so your 7 seed would be playing the 1 seed because they won, but the 9 seed won, and now they're playing the 2 seed. So technically, the number 1 seed is not getting so what we're doing is 9 and 10 are playing on Monday night at number one site. So then number one's going to play the winner of 9-10 on Tuesday.
Mhm.
Then number two is going to play 7 and 8. And number two is going to play 7 and 8 on Monday night. On Tuesday night after they play on Monday night on their court. So basically 1 and 2 will play a game against a team that played the night before and they got the scout and they're playing it at home. So we figured it was the best way to do it and to protect a true number one, as best as you can. And then after the quarterfinals, so after the Tuesday games, then we'll reseed the semifinals. So
Gotcha.
let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't go that way. So let's say 1 and 2 win, but let's say, so there's an upset somewhere. Well, instead of one playing whomever, let's say 2 gets upset by 7 or whatever. That team would go play 1. And the reason why we're able to do it is because you have to travel anyways.
Yeah.
Because the highest seed's always getting a home court anyways. So you have to travel somewhere anyways.
Sure.
So we've been doing it. We've been reseeding now for, I think, 4 or 5 years. And, so it's worked out well. It's helped protect the team that's done the best for the regular season. And when you're talking about 14 teams, it's, the pie keeps going like this, and so you want to protect the number one as best you can for what they did during the regular season.
Coach, I saw on your phone this morning you had photos of the Ospreys at the beach. Discuss that trip and its meaning.
Well, usually when the Ospreys are at the beach, they're picking up fish and they're going to eat. But our guys saw dolphins, but they didn't see much on the sand while they were running. It's something we've done for 14 years, and we've done it during a 5-day kind of a phase. Each day is themed: moment of truth, bad call, come from behind, talk day, which is an obstacle course, and they talk and use our terminology. And then Fridays are road win, what it's like to be on the road. What does the road mean? What does the road look like? What are some obstacles that transpire on the road? And so we talk about that first. And we talk about, travel, fans, venues, sleeping, being in hotels, change of routine, all those variants that come into play. So that's why we take them to the beach. And instead of doing conditioning on the floor, we do it, on the beach. And it's a great day. I don't know if you've ever eaten at Maple Street Biscuit Company. But at the end, we went and had a great breakfast at Maple Street Biscuit Company. But so with the boot camp, it's something to help us kind of solidify that first week. Now, in this case, we had to move it because of the Hurricane Ian.
Right.
And we were still praying for the people down there in a lot of different ways. They're so far away from being far away. We just continue to lift them up, but we had to kind of change our schedule around because of that. And so we had to we went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So the obstacle course on Thursday, and then the road day, we moved to today. And then the obstacle course, we're actually going to do closer to the end of the month, which is fine. So it's something that we do. We correlated. If you can see over my shoulder here, you can see all of our themes for the last 10 years. We started to have themes It's interesting. It's correlated to us winning more too. So,
Sure.
but so we correlate the boot camp, and we, you know, the theme comes into play and whatnot. And so it was a great morning. The wind was only 4 miles an hour. It was like 65 degrees, and it was about as good a day as you could from a, you know, weather standpoint. The only caveat that is always the thing you have to, you plan on it, but you can't. I even got up I got up Thursday at 5:15 because high tide. So I wanted to make sure I knew where high tide was going to come, because we were in it as the tide. We had about 40 minutes before we were at high tide. And
Ooh,
so if you know much about the beach,
yeah.
the lower the tide, the nicer compact the sand. The
Sure.
more you have to move up, the looser the sand, the deeper it gets. So they were running in, you know, some sand that's not great to be running and conditioning in, but it goes along with our theme. It goes along with road. What's it mean to be on the road? And you know, those things happen,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that's been a part of our program, and it's something that we got at Baylor. It's funny, the first year we did it at Baylor was the year we historically earned a program in 5 years, and in 07, 08 went to the NCAA tournament. You know, so, and I know obviously they won a national championship a couple years ago, and Coach Drew's written that great book. And I think a lot of people have gotten a lot of good stories and saw a lot of neat things that
Yeah.
have come out. And they're all, those stories are real. And there's a lot that aren't in the book. That are really good too. Some
Yeah.
you can tell too, which is great. But you know,
Mhm.
now, you know, Paul Mills is at Oral Roberts, and Grant's at North Texas, and Jerome Tang now is at Kansas State. And Mark Moorfield, one of our assistants, is actually super top 25 Division III women's coach.
Mhm.
Really at Mary Hardin Baylor. So there's a lot of us that have come out of that
Yeah.
tree, so to speak, of coaches, you know, during that time. And I was the first to leave at 6 years and come here. So
Sure.
14th season, Ken.
There you go. Coach Matt Driscoll, ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite people. I love to get you on here, Coach, and I look forward to talking to you more, and I wish you the best of luck this year.
So we got the road to Houston.
The road to Houston. There you go.
You know,
Good luck to
when I went to Houston the last time is when I went to Reliant, was 9-10, my first year here.
Yeah.
That's when Baylor played in the Elite Eight and lost to Duke.
Oh, yeah.
Very tough game.
Yeah.
You know, so of course there's been a Final Four since then, but when I think of Houston, that's where I go back to, and I think about that game and what a heck of a game that was.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you, and I'm
Oh,
thankful
yeah.
for the University of North Florida and where we're going. And
Sure.
I think it's going to be an exciting. I think, Ken, in my opinion, there's 7 to 8 teams. I said this last year to you, and I was accurate. I thought there were 6 last year when we had 12. This year, I think there's 7 or 8 teams that can win the tournament.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
not the regular season. The 18 games is a lot.
Yeah, sure.
But I think there's 7 or 8 teams that can win the tournament. So it's going to be a march to madness for sure.
For sure. Thanks a lot, Coach. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Ken. God bless you, and keep getting healthy.
God bless you. I will. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.